You can draw this in Procreate. During this fun and easy Procreate drawing tutorial, I will show you exactly how you can create this owl on a branch in Moonlight. All you need is a canvas of 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels, and the color palette that I have linked down in the description. It's totally free, and brushes that are already in the app Procreate. So if you're ready, let's get started. We'll start out by creating our background. Let's go to the color palette and then drop in that first color in the first row. Let's drag it onto our canvas. And then for our brush, we will go to the pastels in the Procreate library and then use the Miena brush. And then for the color, we'll start with this one, second color in the first row. And the opacity of the brush is at 100%, and let's set the size to 100% as well. And then let's just go over our canvas like this with these vertical strokes, using very light pressure, adding this nice chalky texture. So I'm keeping the edges around, keeping those dark. Now we can go lighter with the third color in the first row, and it will add even more of that texture. And over here, that's where our moon will be, so that area can be a little bit lighter. We're just gently building this up. Then we'll go even lighter with the fourth color in the first row for that center area. And of course, you can always adjust it even more later on, but we want a nice base for our background. I think something like this will work. Then let's make a new layer. Let's tap the plus, and here we are going to draw the branches. Now for the branches, I would like to use a different brush. Let's go to the charcoals and then use the Florentine brush. And for the color, let's use this one. That's the 8th color in the first row. Let me check the size. The opacity is at 100%. We can set the size to like 25. And I will start about here. And I will make a curved line like this. That will be the main branch. And you can give it some more volume. Of course, you can always rotate your canvas. That can make it easier to create that smooth curve. And near the right side of the canvas, make it a little bit thinner. So this is where the branch is thickest. And then as you move to the right, it'll get a little bit thinner. Then over here, let's make like a side branch going up like this. Maybe one going like this. And again, as you move to the outer area, make the lines a little bit thinner. And over here, not going too far because the brush is a little bit thick. We might need to make it a little bit smaller later on. I think we can make the branch even thicker. And then we'll have another branch like this. And let's make one over here. This is where the owl will be. So this is a nice frame for it. So I'll make a branch over here, creating a nice open area for our owl. Then a branch like this. Now let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for maybe 10%. Let's see. Yeah, so we can make some thinner branches. Also over here. That might be a little bit too thick. And then over here we can make this branch longer. Add some of these side branches. And we're going for like a chalky, pastel-like look, of course. This doesn't have to be super tidy. Going for something a little bit messy and playful. So don't worry about it too much. And then over here. A little branch like that. I think this is a lovely frame for our owl. Then let's make a layer underneath this. Let's go here and then tap the plus. And then let's start creating the base for our owl. And for that, I'd like to use a different brush. Let's go back to the pastels and then use the Bandicoot brush. It's a nice, soft, chalky round brush. And for the color, let's see, let's just choose this one. That's the third color in the second row. Opacity of the brush should be at 100%. And let's set the size maybe to 25. Let's see, yeah, that works. And then let's create a shape for our owl. Something rounded like this. We can just color that in. Yeah, you can slowly make it a bit bigger. It doesn't have to be too big. Something like this. Now let's make the brush a little bit smaller, maybe 10% for the tail. That'll be over here. Let's just make these diagonal lines and then fill this area. Maybe we can make the belly a bit more rounded. And then let's make a layer on top. Let's tap the plus. And here, let's pick a different color. Let's go for this one, fourth color in the second row. And let's go back to that previous brush. We can just go to recent brushes and pick the, what was it? The Florentine brush, of course. And then we'll make like a heart shape. A heart shape on the face. Now you don't have to get it right in one go. You can just build it slowly and then color that in. And of course, you can always just use the eraser with a brush that you like if you need to carve it a bit. I think something like this looks good. Let's go back to the brush. Actually, let's use that Bandicoot brush again. And now let's make a layer for the wing. Let's tap the plus and then let's actually put that layer on top of the branch. And then let's make a rounded shape. And it's covering the branch just slightly. And then we can color that in. Just something like this. Now let's also make a moon for our scene. Let's go to our background and tap the plus. Then let's pick this color, sixth color in the first row. And let's create a moon up here. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's go for 30%. Color that in. And I want it to be a little bit fuzzy on the edges. And I want it to be right behind that branch. Now we can make it more moon-like by adding some texture. Let's first tap this layer and turn on alpha lock so we won't be able to go outside of the shape. And then let's pick maybe this color, or maybe let's go for this one. First color in the second row. Let's make the brush a bit smaller, maybe 15%. And let's add some of that. I like those craters on the moon. Just something like this. Then let me pick the local color again and go over a bit to kind of like smudge them a bit, but also make it a bit lighter. Now you can pick the color that you have right now that is a little bit lighter, and then use that to add even more of this texture on the moon. And of course, you can always go back to that lighter color, push this back again a little bit, smudge it a bit until it looks something like this. All right, now let's go back to our owl. Let's go to this layer, tap the plus for a new layer on top, and then for the color, use this one, a third color in the second row. And let's go in here. Let me check the size of this. I think we can go back to the Florentine brush. It's a bit more precise. And we'll make a smaller heart shape. And we'll color this in. So we got a heart with a nice dark edge around. Then let's set this layer to alpha lock so we won't be able to go outside of the shape. And then let's go back to the Bandicoot brush. And for the color, we'll pick this one, second color in the second row. And then we'll darken the left side of the face like this. And then let's make a little circle here for the eye on the right. And then let's pick this color, second color in the second row for one over here. Just a simple circle. Then let's go back to the Florentine brush and let's make it a bit smaller, maybe 4%. And here let's create these lines like fanning outward from the eye. Something like this, and then we'll switch to the second color in the second row and do a bit of the same here on the right side. And now let's go back to the Bandicoot brush and we'll stick with this light blue. Let me check the size. We can go a little bit smaller. 8%, and let's go over this eye. So we just got a little edge there at the top. And then let's do the same on the other side with this color, third color in the second row. Make these eyes a bit more subtle. And then let's go to the pencils over here and use the Pelion brush. And for the color, let's use this one, ninth color in the first row. And then we can go over here By the way, opacity is at 100%, size at 25. We can make a little curve right here and here to create these sleepy eyes, and then add these little curves for eyelashes. Just something like this. Then for a little beak, let's tap the plus for a new layer, and then let's pick this color, 8 color, in the second row, and then create like a little diamond shape right in the center here. Then you can tap the layer, turn on alpha lock so we won't be able to go outside of the shape, then pick this color, 9th color, in the second row, and color the left side a bit, the shadow side. Then let's move to this layer over here. Let's tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then let's go back to our recent brushes. Let's use the Florentine brush again, and then let's see, what shall we use? Let's go for this one first. 5th color in the second row, and we can go along that edge and also make like these radial lines, imagining they are coming from the center, or from the eyes. So this gives some nice texture. You could add some more color. You could use this one as well, 6th color in the second row. Add some more of these lines. All right, that looks good. I hope you're having fun so far creating your own owl in Moonlight. If you want to have even more fun in Procreate, follow even more tutorials, and go ahead and check out my Patreon. This week we painted this lovely realistic pear. And at my Patreon you will find more than 250 Procreate drawing and painting tutorials. So it's the perfect place to level up your skills, or just have fun and relax while creating something flow-amazing. So I will just leave a link for you down in the description, but now let's continue with our owl. Now let's move to the body. Let's first turn on alpha lock here, for now in any case. And then let's use the Bandicoot brush. And now let's first add some blue. Let's pick the 2nd color in the second row. Let me check the size. Let's go a little bit bigger, 20%. And here, this is like more like the shadow edge. We'll add more blues there. And I'm making these little dabs to, at the same time, add some texture. Then let's switch to this color, 1st color in the second row. Add some darker blue, also underneath here. And then for some warmer colors, let's use this color, 5th color in the second row. Following like the shape of the body. And let's also add some here. Let's not forget the tail. We can also add some blue there. Let's add this 1st color in the second row. And then let's go a little bit, well, first let's pick this color, 4th color in the second row, and then let's go a little bit smaller. Let's make the brush maybe like 6%. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. So we can add some more detail. I want some of these lines suggesting like a feather texture. Also some texture over here. And then let's go a little bit darker. Let's see, maybe we can just use this color, 9th color, in the first row for a darker touch over here, right underneath the wing, and also on the tail, separating these feathers a bit. Then let's turn off alpha lock so we can add some detail on the edges. Let's use the Pelion brush again, and for the color, let's use this 3rd color in the 2nd row, and let's add some almost like fluff around the edges. Make him nice and fluffy. Also here on top of its head, and here on the back. I think that makes him look extra cute. Now let's move on to the wing over here. Let's turn on alpha lock, and then for the brush, let's go to the Bandicoot brush again, and let's first just lay down some color variety here. We can start with this one, 5th color in the 2nd row. Let me check the size. Let's go a bit bigger, 20% again. And just some dabs for our base. Just one color variety here. We can also add some of that blue 1st color in the 2nd row. Just some dabs stacked on top of each other. Then let's move on to this color, 6th color in the 2nd row. Drop some of that in there. And then let's go lighter with this one. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row. And also let's make the brush a bit smaller now, 15%. Let's go even smaller. Let's go for 8. And let's make some smaller details. And then what I'd like to do is go to the Pelion brush, and let's pick a darker color. Maybe this one is dark enough, 4th color in the 2nd row. And I want to create some of those, some of that like feather pattern. Very simple. It's a bit like scales. And then we can go back to the Bandicoot brush. I want to add some blue in here. Let's pick this color, 2nd color in the 2nd row. And now you can use those feathery shapes as a guide a little bit. Color some of them with that blue. And we can also do that with this lighter color, with the 5th color in the 2nd row. Put some more of those dabs. Like I said, not making something too complicated. I think this looks nice. Now, if at this point you feel like the wing is off with its shape or the face, what you could always do is just select these layers. For instance, the face. If you don't like that, you can select the layers that you don't like, and then you can just go to the Move and Transform tool, for instance, and you can make it bigger or smaller. In this case, of course, the beak should move to. You can set it to freeform, for example, if you want to stretch it a bit, move it around, super flexible. I just want to stretch it a bit. So you could go for something like this, and then you can just pick the beak, go to the move and transform tool again, and then place that where you like it. But instead of the move and transform tool, you could also go to a layer, for instance, the what's it called? The not the feather, the wing. Let's turn off alpha lock. You could also go to the magic wand and then to liquefy. If you have it set to push with distortion and momentum set to none, you can easily push and pull parts and tweak it a little bit. So this way you remain super flexible. Now let's continue and let's work on the feet, or whatever they are called. Let's tap the plus and let's pick the Pelion brush. And for the color, let's go for this one, 8 color in the second row. And let's just first create these simple lines like this, simple toes, and here as well. You can just go for these arches like this, and then you can start fleshing them out, adding some volume. So keeping it very simple. Then let's turn on alpha lock on this layer. So tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then add some shading. Let's add this color, 9th color in the second row. Darken the left sides because we have the light here. So the shadow should be on the opposite side. So like this. You can also add a bit of a highlight with the 7th color in the second row. Add some light on top of these claws. And then let's turn off alpha lock. And then let's pick this darker color, 9th color in the first row. And then you can add these, what are they called? Nails. Just a little extra touch. All right. You could also make it appear as if those feathers are covering the feet a little bit. You could just make a layer on top or work on this layer as well. Of course, we can just pick a light color like the 3rd color with that Pelion brush. You could go over, or what you could also do is instead tap and hold the eraser and then just erase parts of the layer, and then parts of that body layer will appear, of course. And the reason I tapped and held that button is so that it would switch to that Pelion brush, and then you can erase with like a texture. Now we need to work on the branches, and our branches also need a few leaves, but let's first start with the branches. Let's tap that layer, turn on alpha lock, and then for our brush, let's go to the pastels again and use the Ravenswood brush. It is super textured. And let's just drop in some colors. Let's go for this one. That's, what is it? 7th color in the first row. The opacity of the brush is at 100%. Let's set the size to maybe 25. I like that dab of this brush. Looks nice. Well, 25 or something like that. And let's go over the branch, especially the underside, like the shadow side, adding some of those blue touches and some nice texture. Then let's pick this color. That's the 10th color in the first row. And let's make the brush a little bit smaller now, maybe 10%. And add some lighter touches. And that's more on the side where we have the light, of course. And also on this side. Then let's go darker. We'll pick this color, 9th color in the first row. And you can go along the underside, adding some shadow also here underneath the owl, underneath its feet. Doesn't have to be perfect. It can be nice and messy. Just make sure that it's opposite of the moon, of our light source. And also here, some nice texture. Then we need some brighter lights. Let's pick this color, 2nd color in the 2nd row. Make the brush a little bit smaller, 5%. And let's go along these edges to really make this look like it's lit by the moon. So just a thin little edge. Also here. This really gives it that extra touch. Over here. I like that. Now we just need a few leaves. Let's make a new layer for that. Let's tap the plus. Let's use that pencil again. Where are the pencils? Whoop, there. The Pelion brush. And for the color, let's use this one. 10th color, first row. Let's just go in here and just create a few very simple leaves. Nicely in front of the moon. Really keeping this very simple. And you don't have to copy me exactly. Just create a nice balance around the illustration. It's like winter time, so there aren't many of these leaves left. Maybe some here. I think that's a nice final touch, and I think we can call our illustration finished. I hope you had fun, and I'm hoping to see you next time for the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.